All righty.
Awesome. Mr. Justin Brunson.
What's up?
How you doing, brother? Welcome to Heroic Hospitality.
Yeah, thanks
Appreciate
for
you.
having us. What a cool space we're in today.
It's your first time here.
My
huh?
first time. I don't go out anymore, so to walk through here today,
I didn't even
was
try
just,
to convince you to come back.
I'm mind blown. I was just mind blown when I walked in that this was been in Denver, and
That's
I don't
awesome.
haven't been here. Well, I don't go out that much anymore. But what a wonderful space.
Thank you so much. So you walked in the side door. What was like your first impression?
I just loved how like unique and like bohemian and like it was like I don't know. It's kind of like a very Meow Wolf like in here. I can only imagine
Awesome,
when it's
thank
like
you.
full of human beings and the energy and the people.
Yeah.
And, you know, the lights. Oh, it'd be super. This is what a cool place.
I'm not going to try to convince you, but you should come.
I
You should-
will at
least-
some point. I
I'll
don't
be
go
here
out a
on
lot.
Thursday night. So if you're ever in the neighborhood Thursday night, I'll be here and
Awesome.
we can raise a glass. So we were just reconnected over at Garden Grace. Troy Gard invited us to one of his
Yeah.
fundraisers and had a blast chatting with you. I was like, you have to be on the show.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I'm
This
all
show,
about putting out my new business.
you got
here,
your
my
new biz
product
really the journey of how you got here, bro, is
Yeah.
like just, if I feel so this show is dedicated to anyone that's a nightlife enthusiast somehow, some way. Hospitality is either in their life or touches their life, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
basically everyone. So it's an easy name for a podcast. And entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. And
Yeah.
you have thrown so much against the wall to see what sticks.
Oh, I've done some stuff. That's for sure. That's
you
for sure.
you and I started in a similar way. You started in the back of the house. I also started in the back of the house, but then migrated to the front pretty quickly in my career. Obviously, we're talking about restaurants. Maybe give us like the short story, your story between, however long ago, and then when you
Yeah.
wanted to kind of exit the industry.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about the packing and the meat and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
totally.
This is the Meat Lovers edition, by the way.
the meat lovers edition. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. So I mean, I fell in love with food. I mean, I've always been a fat kid. I've always
You've
liked,
lost a ton of weight, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what happens when you get out of the restaurant business. You can go and have time for yourself to go to the gym and
Fuck yeah.
mentally and physically take care of yourself. But I grew up in Iowa, and food was always such a huge portion of my life.
Mhm.
And I was a bit of a misfit. Imagine that,
Yeah.
Like in high school, I wasn't into.
No chefs are misfits.
Yeah, right. It is. Yeah, the hospitality industry is the land of the misfits
Yeah.
and the modern day pirate.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
But I fell in love with food as a young kid, and I didn't know what to do. I went to college. I got kicked out of college. Sorry, mom and dad. And I ended up going back, and I was working in my dad's feed warehouse. I was loading semis with 50-pound bags of animal feed all day. And I said, man, there's got to be a better life than this. And, I was watching the Food Network, and it was so cool back then. You had,
It was organic. It was very cool.
Yeah, Emeril Lagasse back in the day. It was, we had Mario Batali. And, of course, as a kid, I loved Julia Childs and
Right.
Graham Kerr and Justin Wilson, watching all those guys on TV. And I loved food. And I always cooked. Even as a young kid, I cooked. Like, I would cook steaks when I was like 9 years old. I'd be the grill guy, you know? So I went to culinary school down in Scottsdale. And it was too hot down there. So I moved up here in 2001. And my first job was working over at a Dega. And me and Brian did not get along very well.
Moscatello.
Yeah. Old Brian Moscatello.
Moscatello, we worked together in Aspen at the Nell.
Yeah. I mean, amazing chef.
Yeah,
chef.
super talented.
Yeah, I wasn't super into that kitchen, so I hopped out of there and I got a job with Richard Sandoval. And it was right when the Zango was opening up, and it was like the new hot restaurant in town.
Of course.
And that's kind of where I started off in Denver. I was there for like a year and a half, which is pretty long for a young chef in the city. And Troy actually Troy Gard gave me my first sous chef job. And there was nights at Zango where there was nights we were ringing $40,000-$50,000. It was insane. The tickets were coming off the machine, hitting the ground, coming up. The board was full. We just like look at each other and laugh.
Yeah.
It was somewhere in between a nightclub and a restaurant.
Yeah, it was a huge spot.
Yeah, it was ginormous. And
we're going to talk a lot about restaurants that no one's heard of on this podcast.
Yeah, because we're old. They're all out of business. But that, it was great. So I spent my time with him, and then I worked with Frank and Jacqueline over at Mizuna and Luca. And I was 20 at the time. I think I was like 26. I
Yep.
spent like 2.5, 3 years with them.
What was your position with those guys?
I was pretty much the sous chef at Luca.
Okay.
Mikey ran the kitchen, and I was the second guy in the kitchen there. And at that point, I was like, man, I want to go do my own thing. And that's when I was like, I want to open a sandwich shop, because Denver didn't have a bomb sandwich shop at that time. So me and my partner, Steve Ali, Steve was working pasta over there. And we stepped out of Frank's kitchen, and we actually moved into the Lancer Lounge next door and opened up Masterpiece Deli.
Yeah, which was awesome.
Which was great. And
spent a ton of money at Masterpiece.
Yeah, well, it was so crazy. We were in like this old school dive bar in Denver, doing tons of delivery during the days out of it, and selling sandwiches there at nighttime. And then we opened up our first location in 2008. So
right across the bridge.
Yeah, we
Lower Highlands.
Yeah, the walking bridge there in High. We were right there.
So for the current day journeyman, that is right where the lobster place is, right next door to where the
main shack is there, and then there's.
But you were on the hard corner.
Yeah, I think there's a pita place opening up on the corner where Masterpiece was, and man, we crushed it there for years, and then they built that giant building across the street. All of our parking went away. And it took us out of business. Like, it wasn't, if it wasn't for that construction project, we'd still be open.
You know, it's crazy. So this is like exactly why I wanted to have you on the show, because you've experienced a lot of things, and you can't make this stuff up, and nor can you plan for it, right?
No,
you don't open a sandwich shop, become successful, and imagine that a construction zone could actually take you out.
Yeah, it was insane. Like, there was, it's that whole loop down there. You drive through that loop, and you go around that loop twice. You don't find parking. You're not stopping.
Yeah.
And our sales dropped 50%, and we fought it for the first 6 months. But after that, we're like, there's a year and a half left on this construction project. It was, we just didn't have the money to fund it, and it was sad to see. Everybody loves Masterpiece Deli. I get it all the time. Like, it
was amazing.
I love the truffle egg salad. I love the Italian. I love the
Italian was my favorite.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah. It was so good.
That's one of the things that, like, when people are. So I talked to someone the other night, and it was late one of these nights, and they're opening a nightclub. In a I don't want to give too much. They're opening a nightclub, and they haven't done it before. And I said, well, we have to sit down. I consider you a friend.
Yeah.
Allow me the opportunity to share some things.
The mistakes
that have been made.
Yeah.
Not only at Beacon, but in Lower 48 or other opportunities I've had in my career. And so I just think that if you're going to open a sandwich shop, a coffee shop, a restaurant, a bar, you have to talk to people that have more experience than you, and just shed your ego, be humble. And open up to
100%. And all of us guys that have been through it and opened and closed and learned and made the mistakes are wide open to talk to.
We want to.
We want to. Because, I look at all the stress that I went through and all. It's just like, oh, well, I'm opening up a sandwich shop. Well, you don't think a nice sandwich has as many touches as a fine dining plate. It does.
It has a lot of touches in a smaller environment with less resources.
And they got to be out in 3 to 6 minutes,
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing. It's, anybody opening up a new restaurant or has a concept, to talk to somebody more experienced
even
chefs.
if you got to pay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The $400 or whatever the number is, doesn't matter.
That 400 can save you 40,000 real fast,
and a lifetime, and decades of work, because time is something that I don't know about you, but I can look at the way I viewed my time coming up in the industry. I never looked at it as a commodity and as a resource, but now it's like so finite, your time on this planet.
It is crazy.
And you have to pay attention to how much energy you are willing to expel.
That's kind of what made me get out of the restaurant business. Everybody around me was happy. My employees were happy. My customers were happy. And I was miserable.
Yeah.
I was absolutely miserable. I was going to work.
What do you think it was that made you, when you say it with such passion, like why miserable? Like why are you choosing that word specifically?
Zero time for yourself, just like, since I've been out of the restaurant business, out of working in a kitchen day to day. I still own Culture Meat and Cheese.
Yeah.
But
Culture Meat and Cheese.
Yeah, Culture Meat and Cheese down in Denver Central Market, and then we have a location at the airport as well. But I'm not in the kitchen every day. And there was one point I had 5 restaurants. I mean, I was going to work at 5 in the morning and getting off at midnight and just looping between all the restaurants and just putting out fires and it made me very unhappy. Like I had no time for working out. I had no time for doing the thing. I moved to Colorado because I love the mountains. I love to fly fish, right?
Yeah.
You're a fly
You
fisherman.
and I both.
You get it,
That's
right?
right.
Like you get to a point where you're working so much you can't enjoy anything, and then you do, oh, I'm going to come home for Christmas this year, and then boom, somebody always quits that week, so boom, oh, hey family, I'm not going to make it to the first Christmas in 5 years that I was going to come to,
I've missed most of my holidays for a good 20 years.
So those are the things, I mean, and then you just don't personally take care of yourself, like you're just, constantly working and going out to try to numb the pain, drinking a lot, and it's just not the life that I wanted to live anymore. I'm in my 40s now.
If you were to look back at that, is there anything you would offer to the young Justin that would be like, hey, really carve this out? How do you, like, if you were to say, I mean, setting a boundary, like, is there even any way to do that? I mean, I don't know,
when you're passionate and creative, and so it's like more, like you in the olden days, you used to be able to have one restaurant and support your family.
Yeah.
Today,
when the profit margins were still 18%.
18%. Yeah. Now these guys are trying to carve 7. That's with alcohol sales.
It's.
I mean, it's so hard, and like I was, and it's really just I got to the point where I was just miserable, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to close Old Major, and
you had Old Major. It was an amazing restaurant.
Yeah.
And what looked like a good location. It seemed like it was. It a good location?
Yeah, it was a good location.
Because I know Fifth String just recently closed out of that location too. I mean,
I think the rents in that neighborhood have just gotten to the point where it's very hard to keep a profitable restaurant going.
It's so funny, Lower 48 was, through my lens, a B+ location. At the end of the day, it was a C- location. But one of the main reasons I chose to put Lower 48 in that specific spot was my relationship with the landlord.
Yeah.
But that wasn't enough.
Right.
It wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. But like these landlords, and I've had a handful of them on that really care about their tenants, but most of them don't.
Yeah.
All they're looking at is the dollar signs.
I didn't see one rent abatement at all through COVID. Nobody helped me at all.
Right.
Nobody helped me at all.
But on the news, it was, there's, concessions to.
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
We got no rent,
sorry to hear that.
Anywhere I was at. And I was like, man, why am
stressful
I doing
time.
this?
And then, they're taking advantage.
Yeah. And
it feels like that anyway, whether they are or not is hard to say, but it definitely feels like that.
Yeah. I mean, everybody was struggling. I mean, the doors aren't open. I still got to pay $18,000 a month rent. Like, that doesn't work.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. It's more than that up there now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, the neighborhood was great, man. The Highlands neighborhood's always been great since I opened up Masterpiece up there. And then
Juan's crushing it up there.
Oh, those guys are crushing. Max and Juan are crushing it up there, man. I think their concepts are definitely real mindful towards the neighborhood, the younger.
And smaller.
Yeah.
Which tends to be, in theory, easier to run.
Smaller, and then more towards the people that live there now, too. Mm-hmm. Like when I opened up Masterpiece in 2008, there was a lot more money up there. There was a lot more empty nesters. And then there was actually a lot of people in their 30s and 40s as well.
I would call it I would have called that a destination restaurant.
But then
in addition to supporting the neighborhood.
Everybody had kids up there, and they all moved out, like
interesting.
And now it's all like younger kids, like late 20s, early 30s. Mm-hmm. A lot of that going on up there. And that wasn't my crowd for eating, $200 dry aged steaks at Old Major. So, when mom and dad were in town, they were there.
Oh, right. Yeah, with the pocket. With
and
the,
brunch,
with the
brunch was off the hook, we would
brunch.
do, a couple hundred covers for brunch, and
Which, as a chef, it's not that sexy and not that much fun.
No.
But it does help pay the bills.
Yeah, it does, 100%. And, like lunch, brunch, there was points there where, doing those 2 services when you set up for brunch and then have to set up for dinner on Saturday night, that is a stressful term right there.
And you're dealing with different talent.
Yep.
The talent at brunch is different than the talent at dinner. Mm-hmm. The egos at brunch are different than the egos at dinner. Mm-hmm. Running a restaurant is it's juggling. It's like,
I have so much respect for everybody out there doing it.
Everybody.
Yes, everybody.
I look back and I'm just like, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
And that's part of why I started this podcast.
I think
really,
that's great.
Is because offering this insight from OGs that understand what it's like to lose.
Yeah.
Losing is not fun.
Yeah.
But it's something we all need to go through.
Yeah.
To come out the other side. And here you are.
100%.
Coming out the other side.
Yeah.
There you go. With some packaged
so I
packaged pork. And I wanted to have you on the show because I spent a handful of years as a director of operations for a natural food company called Kim and Jake's Gluten Free. So very specific, very niche-y. This could be in ambient. It could be in specialty. It could be frozen. It could be refrigerated. It could be in the deli. Where else? In the bread section. There was like 7 different areas where this
that's a lot of
product could live.
Yeah.
It was so challenging just to have a conversation with the buyer, let alone to get something on the shelf, which was my job. Mm-hmm. And the rules seemed like they always changed. The person that once purchased your product was like, I agreed to bring on Kim and Jake's Gluten Free. And then that person then moves on to either a different location
100%.
and then or a different company.
Yeah.
And now you have to convince this next person that
this
is the product that you need.
And that's like a 4 to 6 month process.
I don't even.
It's a 4 to 6 month process to talking to actually being on the shelf at a major retailer or even at a distributor, like a big distributor.
Yeah.
Where the smaller local distributors and the smaller local grocery store chains are all about it right away. They're like, oh, cool, new local product that's got good margin for us and a great name behind it. And it's super quality product. They're all about it. They hop right on it.
Right.
But you need to get into those bigger guys to make the money that you want.
The juice. Yeah. So tell me about your first business trying to put something on a shelf and what that looked like, because you and I talked a little bit about it. My uncle had a bunch of property. Uncle Skipper, had a bunch of property down in Arizona. Amazing man. Rest in peace. I can't tell you like as much people I have respect for in my life. I look back at that relationship and just my heart fucking just swells when I say his name. So thanks for that. That's just fucking amazing to talk about him. But he had something like 350 head of cattle, and I tried to like help him. I tried to help you, but it's just not that easy.
No, it's so hard.
So tell us a little bit about that
line stuff up. I mean, really, when you start talking about living animals, because you're buying, you find the farmer, then you find the co-packer, and the transportation between A and B, and then B and C, and it's a lot.
Transportation. Let's just talk really 1 second, because transportation. So with this product that I'm talking about, Kim and Jake's, it had to be shipped frozen, right?
Right.
Shipping frozen is very expensive. Now
Super
with meat,
expensive.
I think you can choose between like chilled between.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about transportation.
So just transportation. Just by the time it goes from the farm to the, well, it depends how you're doing. It could be the farm with a live animal to the to the slaughterhouse, and then from the slaughterhouse to the co-packer,
right? And
then from the co-packer to your distribution warehouse, and then from there to all your sales units, which would be like What Chefs Wants, Altamira Foods, Cheese Importers, Shamrock Cisco, and then from there to the retailer or the restaurant. I mean, they're just right there. Look how many times that product
gas
is touched. Yeah.
How many drivers?
Right.
Right. Like really, it's really mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's really mind
And
blowing.
it all like, and I pack in South Dakota, and where I pack in South Dakota is out in the middle of nowhere. And if a nasty
You said
ice,
South Dakota?
yeah, South Dakota. You know, so the pork bellies come from Colorado, they come from Holyoke, at Seaboard Farms, and they go all the way up there. But by the time, but there could be a snowstorm. And you know, you're like, and everybody's like, oh yeah, the product's going to be here on the 14th. And next thing you know, that snowstorm hits, truck breaks down, this and that. And then you're 10 days behind schedule, you know, and everybody's just like, argh.
And you know what happens when you're 10 days behind? Well, you know what happens when you're 10 days behind schedule. But then all of a sudden they can't count on you to put the food that you promised them on the shelf.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden it's like kind of one mark against you to like, I'm just going to go for the big packer.
You're
and
the
like,
big packer,
just call it done.
That's
because
why
you
it's
can't keep
great
up with
to start with the
demand.
small retailers and the small distributors, because they'll definitely work with you more because they're family owned still, you know.
Right. Like Locavore is a good example, right?
Yeah, totally. And you know, even like Cheese and Porters is still family owned. And you know, like I get this afternoon, I'm going to go talk with Derek over at Seattle Seafood. I've known him for 20 years. Like, you know, like we're friends. You know, I've watched him grow. I think he was a sales guy back in the day when I first met him.
Yeah.
You know, and then he's running the whole program out there. So it's a lot easier to work with those smaller guys in the beginning while you're figuring stuff out. And then you finally get to that point where you're like, okay, cool, let's order 20,000 pounds. And that's going to be enough to get me through a month, you know? So I also have a great partner in Royal Crest Dairy. They've been awesome.
Cool.
Right away.
And so what we can do after this, after we kind of get together, you can shoot us a little email on like who we want to support with that. So
Great. Just, you know, the transportation, getting the spices up there too. Like all my spices are blended here in Denver. Zach over the spice guy makes all my spices. We shoot them up there.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So it's just like, there's a lot of logistics, and then, you know, you finally get the product here and you get a warehouse, and then the whole next thing is getting into these big stores, you know, and that sometimes it can take, it's really, I mean, it's 4 to 6 months to really get it going.
I'll tell you, I mean, 4 to 6 months, that is if you're lucky. I mean, I could tell you I worked with King Soopers for over a year, and it still wasn't on the shelf because of the intricacies. And they're a big company.
And they're good with the local product too, right? Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, we were successful, but then the buyers all switched around. It's really the relationship that you cultivate and create with the buyers.
Yeah.
If they move and if they leave, now you got to do it the same. You're starting over.
Yep.
It's such a challenging
definitely
business.
Had that happen as well in the last couple months here.
What is it like? There's so many different certifications now, but shopping in a grocery store is just not easy anymore.
No.
It's expensive. So, which makes it intimidating because you don't want to put garbage in your body, but you also don't want to open your wallet on everything, right? And so like an example of that is like, I don't really compromise when I buy like dried blueberries or dried fruits.
Yeah.
For me, it has to be organic because it starts at this like big juicy thing and then it condenses all of its power to this one little nugget. And if that nugget is compromised with any type of pesticides or anything, now it's like just ultra condensed and compromised. How do you even go about shopping in a grocery store these days with all these different labels?
Man, there are so many labels.
Tell me, how many labels can you think of right now?
I mean, just
certified organic, like things like that.
Well, and then you this, natural, like this thing right here, uncured. This is something the USDA makes me put on the label. This is still a cured product. It's just cured with natural nitrate, which comes from celery powder, instead of man-made nitrate. But
so
it's
no
still
nitrates
cured.
added, it says.
Yeah, so we still add nitrates. They just come from celery.
Huh.
So, I mean, like,
That's
to
insane.
me, this is one of the biggest flaws in all of the labeling out there because it's still cured. It has nitrate. They're just natural.
Yep.
Every time you eat a spinach salad or eat celery, you're eating nitrates too, you know?
Right.
But they're just naturally made nitrates.
Jeez.
So they don't cause cancer. Where the man-made ones do. And another one in bacon you see all the time is tripolyphosphate, We don't use any tripolyphosphate.
What is that? It's hard to say. It can't be good for you.
So what tripolyphosphate does, it binds water and protein together.
Okay.
And you put it in products to make them way more. So most bacon is pumped. You make a big brine solution, and the bellies go down a conveyor belt, and there's needles that go into them, and they pump this brine into them, and then they go into a tumbler. They go right into the smoker. So what the tripolyphosphate does, it makes the brine or the water molecule stick to the protein, and it makes it weigh more.
Damn.
So even at 10%, if you're selling 1 million pounds a week, I mean, that's a lot more profit in your pocket, you know?
Because you're selling by the pound.
Because you're selling by the pound. Yeah. I don't use any of that stuff. I actually make the most expensive, least profitable bacon I possibly can because it's what I want to eat, you know? Yep. I don't want any man-made nitrate. I don't want tripolyphosphate. I want natural wood smoke. Most bacon, if you look at the grocery store, just has liquid smoke in it. You know, we Applewood smoke these 3 times. So it gets a nice smoke on it. And instead of doing the pump, like we take our salt and our herbs and we tumble everything in those big tumblers to put the brine on it, and then we stack them for a week. So they have to sit there for a week, and halfway through that process, they get restacked. So the stuff on the bottom doesn't get saltier than the stuff on the top. You know, so it's very labor intensive, but you get a product that yields way more. And, you know, a lot of time you put bacon into a pan, it spits all over the place. That's that water coming out. That's
water, yeah.
So, I mean, we probably lose 30% in manufacturing.
In manufacturing?
Yeah, just in manufacturing.
Where does that 30% go?
So a lot of it's water coming out.
Okay.
Because we don't put water in. We actually salt cure, and that makes the water come out of it. And then it loses a ton during the cooking process.
Okay.
And that's why all those guys put that tripolyphosphate in there, because they're trying to get the cooked product to be as close to green weight as possible.
When you say cooked, you mean smoked?
Smoked, yeah. So when you can eat bacon right out of a pack. It's fully cooked. Yeah. It's not raw. Everybody thinks it's raw. It's fully cooked. So this bacon's cooked to 133 degrees, which is really considered like medium rare pork. So all bacon is cooked.
But it's safe.
Yeah, so it's safe to eat right out of the pack. Like, there's not such thing as raw bacon.
It's not crispy.
You're just crispy. You take it out of here and you crisp it.
Right.
And most people don't know that. They think bacon's raw.
Well, I saw. So is it your choice to put the cooking instructions on it, or are you forced to do that?
No, I put them on there. I just think a lot of people still cook bacon in pans at home when it's so much easier just to cook it in the oven.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You choose to cook it in the oven?
I always choose to cook it in the oven just because I'm kind of a clean freak and I don't want the splatter.
Did you do that in your restaurants?
Always.
Okay.
Well, of course. I mean, how are you going to cook? Imagine a guy like Snooze trying to cook pans of bacon.
Oh, my.
Right?
You just got my heart palpitations.
That's how all the restaurants cook it. We all put parchment down on sheet tray, cook it.
What does this mean? Colorado-inspired meats.
Colorado-inspired. I'm a Colorado chef. I came up with this recipe here.
But it's not inspired. It's literal. Like, why?
It's not made here, though. Yeah, there's not a bacon. There's nobody here. There's not a USDA factory in Colorado that makes bacon.
Got it.
It just doesn't exist. We're not a pig raising state. I mean, there's a few pigs out on the eastern slope, but most of the big packers or the places you could co-pack a bacon are in Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska. That's where the animals are, and of course the processors are closer to the animals.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was one thing when we were talking. Like in southern Arizona, there is no meat packing facility. The only meat packing facility was
Arizona.
Was U of A.
Yep.
Was U of A. Yeah.
It's the only
and how
place,
challenging is that?
It's in
a very, very rural area.
COVID, that's when the government figured out that they screwed up and let the big four take over everything, and we were running out of food, and all these local farmers had all kinds of animals, but there was nowhere to have them slaughtered because there was no small USDA facilities in the country. And since then, they have put billions of dollars towards building more small USDA plants in the United States.
Were they still? Last I was kind of looking into this and researching this a little bit for Skipper was the mobile. Is that still a thing? This mobile?
It is. It's
idea?
So expensive, though. It's so expensive to have,
2 to 3
people get in a truck with a mobile slaughter unit come out to your farm and then truck that. That all has to go back to a plant
And
too.
the waste and
Yeah, and there's the all the guts and the offal and all that stuff that you have to get, the hide. There's so much stuff.
how it goes, where it goes,
where
it gets
goes.
pushed in all these different directions.
Yep, and it's so funny you can't even sell a cow hide anymore. They all just get incinerated.
Wow.
I mean, there's so many cattle, and like we couldn't wear enough leather, to make it happen anymore. So it's crazy. It all gets put here and then shipped to China and processed, and then it comes back.
So say that again. What do you mean by that?
Well, we all that cows have fur, and under that fur is leather or their hide.
Yep.
When these guys go through
This was humanely raised, by the way.
Yes,
and fake.
But yeah, when they slaughter the animals, the hides come off of them. In the olden days, they used to get salted and refrigerated, and then they would take them to a tannery, and that's where leather would come from. None of that's done in the United States anymore. I don't know of.
Is there tanneries in the States?
I mean, I'm sure there's some smaller ones, but all the big ones are in China now. So we send this stuff all to China. It all gets processed into leather, and then it comes back. But I mean, I don't know how many animals, how many cattle get slaughtered in the United States every day, but I'm sure it's in the 500,000 range. I would assume. I know there's about 7 million pigs harvested in this country every week.
7 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that amount of animals getting slaughtered, how do you choose what? Because we've been talking about the process of once the animal is ready.
Yeah.
So what happens before how do you make your choice on which farms to work with?
I mean, number one, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that goes into
diligence.
Due diligence that goes into it. To me, I wanted to work with a farm that actually had a farm in Colorado.
Yeah.
And Seaboard Farms has they have great animal husbandry, and they also have a great slaughter facility too. So they have this giant pinwheel, and 8 pigs run in at a time, and they actually get gassed out before they're harvested, which is the most humane way to do it. They just fall asleep. Mm-hmm. I mean, the old school way is, and how a lot of animals are still done, is the bolt, and which is still, because once the bolt hits, brain dead, animal still alive. You got to have the heart still pumping so you can bleed the animal out. Mm-hmm. That's just how it works. So, they will bolt it or gently put it to sleep, and then they get hung up and they get stuck, and that heart is still pumping and pumps all the blood out of the meat. Mm-hmm. There's no blood in meat. Just so every once in a while you'll see a bloody vein or something, but when you eat a medium rare steak, that is not blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of people just have that stuck in their mind. So, so you have to get all that blood out, all the veins in the meat, so that meat doesn't rot.
Yep.
And that's another thing. You can take a steak and dry age it in a room for 120, 240 days, and it doesn't rot. It just ages and gets better and better and better. Mm-hmm.
Why does it get better?
So there's natural enzymes breaking it down. There's mold strains. There's yeast strains adding flavor to the meat.
When you say mold strains and yeast strains, so that'll eventually get kind of carved off or cut off?
Yeah, so when you dry age a piece of beef, say you take a whole 109, which is what you guys would know as a bone-in ribeye, and you age that, there's stuff that grows on the outside. There's different yeasts and molds. It depends on the environment. Every environment.
Just like cheese.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Every environment's a little different, and it has different flavor, different molds, different mold strains, different yeast strains. So that all grows on this meat, and then you cut that all off, and then you cut that into steaks and sell those steaks.
Mm-hmm. It's important that it's hard to hear this for a lot of people. It's hard to, if people are still listening to this, it's because they care about what they put in their body, because a lot of people are going to get turned off by this. But at the end of the day, the same people that are getting turned off are still the same people that are buying bacon or steaks. Yeah. Unless you're a vegetarian, which I totally understand and respect.
That 100%.
But if you're someone that consumes meat, you should listen to this.
Yeah.
And you should understand what it takes to get something to the table. It's not easy. It's not pretty.
No, there is.
But it has been something that's been happening since before human, before.
One bad day is what I kind of, I want my animals to have the best lives possible, and that they have one bad day, and that's the day they go down the chute, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I mean, we have like, you know, I mean, meat is murder. It is. Like, we raise these animals and we harvest them, but we also feed most of the world from the United States. Like, we are the biggest exporter of pork and beef. Like, we feed Japan and China. It's crazy. Like, sometimes it's hard for us to get the high quality stuff because the Japanese and the Chinese will pay $1 more a pound than the Americans will for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of the prime meats and the best pork all goes to China because they'll pay more for it. I mean, we have been so lucky in this country to have such cheap food. This is the first time ever where it's in my lifetime where I'm like, damn, the grocery store is expensive.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world's been dealing with that forever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we've just been such a food powerhouse.
It's kind of like gas too, actually. You go to Europe.
Yeah.
I remember being in Europe 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and I'm like, the gas prices were like triple.
Yeah, triple. Yeah, that's for a liter, not for a gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, perfect. That's the same. Oh, that's for a liter. Yeah.
We have been lucky in this country.
We've just been we've been lucky and spoiled. And I mean, most of the meat in the world, the number one supplier of beef and pork is the United States. You know, and it is crazy for even me to go to the grocery store now and be like, man, that 2 sacks of groceries was $70.
Yeah.
But I'm also buying mostly organic.
Right.
You know, like, I'm very aware of what I'm putting in my body.
Sure.
Too, you know, so I'm trying.
How are you making your choices at the grocery store in this day and age? Because it is hard. You'd see a lot of labels.
Yeah. So all summer, I mean, I buy all my produce from farmers markets, and I go out to Heine's, and you know, I always feel the closer you can get to your farmer, the better.
Yeah.
Be it meat, be it produce or fruit, anything. So of course, the closer you can get to the farmer, the better food you're going to put in your body. And then it's labels and where you're shopping, you know? And it's crazy. I do a ton of internet shopping.
Oh, really?
I do. I order a lot of stuff online.
Like what?
Like, I like my beans from Rancho Gordo. I buy all my beans from Rancho Gordo.
Yeah.
They're the best. And
You're right.
you know, it's just like, I just order
I don't think about it that often. You know, Bellwether Farms is my favorite yogurt, and I can't find it everywhere. And I found it last night, actually.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
yeah. So it's just hard. You find something you like, then figure out if you can order it direct. Because a lot of these people during COVID figured out that they could sell direct to consumer.
Yep.
You know, like
Rancho Gordo is a great example. It's already a dried product. It's safe to ship.
Yeah.
You don't. It's heavy.
Yeah.
So you pay.
Yeah.
But you're paying. It's still built into the price.
It's built into the price.
You know, as a consumer.
Yeah, so all my meat, I know the farmers that it comes from. Vegetables, in the summertime, I, do as much farmer market, and Heine's is awesome.
So tell us about Heine's. I know where it is.
Heine's is on, what is that? Like, it's out by, it's 44th and Ward for the most part, but it's a farm stand, and all the farmers from the Western Slope come and bring their product there, and then from there it goes to all the smaller sales. But I mean, during produce season, apples, pears, plums, tomatoes, corn. I mean, every vegetable you could possibly think of, and it's great. And it's family owned and been there for 70 years or
They're
something.
great.
Like that.
I love it.
I love going out there. Yeah. So I do my weekly trip out there, and then winter comes, and it's like, what like I still want to eat tons of leafy greens. Yeah, I'm just been way more health conscious. So like leafy greens is a huge portion of my diet, and I go to the store and I buy organic, but we know, how messed up are all those labels today, and how nutrient dense is that stuff at the grocery store? I think that's a big thing.
And a lot of the times, vegetables and leafy greens are more dangerous than meats.
Than meat at this point, for sure. And it's like I'm looking for nutrient dense food. Like just because it says it's organic and it's in an organic box, is it nutrient dense? And I feel like,
how long has it been there?
Yeah, how long has it been there, and how fast was it grown, and how clean was it where it was grown, and triple washed. There's still dirt and bugs all over all the lettuce, right? Like we've seen all the studies on that. It's really hard. Like this winter, it's funny. I'm actually going to take like like a grow tent in my garage, and I'm going to grow leafy greens for myself. Because
in soil or
in soil.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I'm going to do it all soil. Take one,
Lights.
put some lights out there and grow some.
Fan, you're going to do the whole thing.
I've never done it. This year I'm going to do it.
It's amazing.
It's just so hard when you're eating all this awesome stuff all summer, and then here comes winter, and you're like, and I can only eat so many like carrots and Brussels sprouts and like not my thing,
Yeah. It's recently, about 2 years ago, I started raising chickens, and it was the best.
Yeah.
To have those eggs.
Yeah, real eggs.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I mean, consistently too.
Yeah.
It was
you're
awesome.
spoiled. You're spoiled.
So I just thought of an awesome thing to talk about, since this will more than likely be released before Thanksgiving. What are some of your tips since this is the Meat Lover special?
Yeah.
And I've had the luxury of having many, many meals prepared by your hand, which have all been fantastic. What are you doing for Thanksgiving, and what can give us some tips? We need some tips here.
Get a good turkey. The D-still turkeys are great. There's a company, Ferndale, that grows a great turkey. Brine your turkey. Turkeys aren't good.
What does that mean?
They're brine. So you make a salt water and sugar solution per gallon. You can do a half cup of salt, half cup of sugar, whatever herbs you like in there. I suggest garlic, black pepper, sage. I always like citrus. I put a couple lemons, a couple oranges. Let that thing sit in there for 40,
so you put the
48
entire
hours.
bird inside the 5 gallon or whatever.
Yeah, you can use a bucket. I usually like to use a Yeti cooler. Just throw some ice in there too, because then it doesn't take up the room in my refrigerator.
Nice.
So any cooler will work, but you can build your brine in there, put your turkey in there, throw some ice in there. Just make sure it's staying under 40 degrees. Brine it for, 36, 48 hours. Nice light brine. Let it sit in there. Then take it out and let it dry.
How long you keep it overnight?
36 to 48 hours is what I do.
Okay.
I do a longer brine.
Just do 48 hours.
Yeah.
Let's call it that.
And then take it out and let it sit out on the counter and pat it off dry, especially if you're going to deep fry it. Let's make sure that the cavity's dry. And and then I always take...
How long do you let it dry for? Because for me, I would do like 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah, or put a fan on it. If you got a box fan sitting around, you can probably do it in 3 or 4. But I would say,
a long
6,
enough
7
time.
hours. Yeah. Let it dry and then rub it with oil, season it up, and put it in your oven. I do, on the inside, I always do tons of mirepoix and tons of citrus. Tie those legs up. Fold the wings back,
Yep.
Make it as tight as possible. It's going to cook the best. And then I always roast my turkey and do my stuffing separate. My mom was the opposite. She was stuffing inside the bird and all around the bird. To me, it's just there's too much funky stuff going on with the bird.
How do you cook? So what does the turkey live on inside the oven?
I always like
like
to
a grate or like
yeah.
what is
if you have one of those nice roasting pans with the rack in it, that's the way to go.
The ones that like hold it up?
Yeah, the ones
upright?
well not
like
upright.
a beer can chicken looking thing.
No. It's just more like a V-shaped rack.
I know what you're talking about.
That works really good. If you don't have that, you could always take like a pie dish and turn it over in another pan and then put it up on that so it's getting up. Out of the roasted, like all the juice on the bottom.
Okay.
You'll get a better roast like that for sure.
And then how long ideally are you doing this?
I mean, it depends what turkey you got.
Yeah.
It's funny. People are always like, how long do you cook something? I was like, till it's done. And I'm a huge fan. Everybody should go down to Carbon and get one of those nice meat thermometers.
Yep.
It's just like I cook my chickens to the thighs are like when I cook a chicken, I cook the leg till it's 180.
And the rest of it's good.
The rest of it's going to be perfect. If
Right.
I get that thigh portion to 180, it's going to be juicy and full.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing with the turkey. And it all depends
180
on
on the turkey too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Down in the thigh portion.
Okay.
And every turkey in every oven is different too.
Of
That's
course.
another thing. It's like, well, I could give you a recipe, but what is your oven even? When you set your oven at 350, is it really 350?
Yeah.
Most ovens aren't. So
It's so funny. When I lived in San Francisco for like 6 years, they're like, "Oh, cooking at altitude. Be careful."
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna have something to say about something,
Yeah. So I think that's just the thing. Get a high quality bird, brine it, cook it properly, make sure it's dried out, let it rest. I mean, I rest my bird 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yep.
You know, I think the resting is just as important as the cooking.
It is. Yeah,
Nothing worse than cooking a turkey and then everybody's so excited to get in, and then you slice the breast and all the juice just runs right out of it.
yeah.
You know, and a big piece of meat
Take
like
your
that,
time.
take your time to rest it. I think that's the most important and critical step in roasting a turkey is resting it 35, 45, even up to an hour.
And starting off with it not being super cold.
Yeah.
So the same thing on the front end too. Let
Yeah.
it come to temperature.
Any big piece of meat.
Yeah.
Let it warm up. Let it sit on the counter for a couple,
Yep.
couple hours before you.
And then you get into it, and then you let it rest again.
Yep.
That's like for me like the secret sauce of
No,
any
I agree.
production.
Yeah.
So
And then you have all that beautiful juice in the bottom, turn into your gravy, and
love
go
it.
to town.
All right, good. What? So yeah, we're gonna put this in the description. But
Cool.
We got this little guy here. How do we support you, Justin? What can we do to support you? Where's your bacon? So
Well-
So you used to have a company that did a lot of different meats. Now it's just bacon. You're
Yeah.
focused on one thing.
I'm just doing bacon and dry aged beef. So my direct consumer website will be up in the next month. So
We'll make
you'll
sure
be
we
able
do
to
that, yeah.
buy direct from us. But I mean, you can find us at Marzik's, Levers, Tony's. Where else right now? Seafood Landing carries us right now. So I am just gotten to the point where I'm selling to distributors.
Cool.
Royal Crest Dairy, you can order us with your milk every week.
Okay.
So that's super easy. So we're just starting to get out there right now.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
So
Well,
it's a fun
hopefully
time to
this
come
show
talk.
can help get the word out there. We can chop this show up in different clips and different anything like
Cool.
that. So is there anything that you want to any shout out or very specific call to action that you can offer us right now? That
I mean, really, one of the biggest things I would like to say is everybody go out and eat and support your local restaurants.
Yeah.
Like they're out there fighting away and struggling with high payroll and high rent and high food costs. And just much love and respect to all my friends and everybody out in the restaurant business fighting it out right
Fighting
now
it out.
because
And
it's tough.
as social media has become such more of a thing, I mean, Yelp was a thing. Now
Yeah.
it's just you can get criticized from every single
Everyone.
every direction. And so whoever is criticizing, please understand.
Yeah.
Please understand that when you're criticizing and when you're critiquing, that there's a lot of effort that's gone into that point. So anchor yourself in where you are. Like one of the things during our pre-services, we'd be like, you never know how someone got here, right? Did they get in a fight with their spouse on the way here?
Oh,
Were they
yeah.
in a snowstorm on the way here? Check yourself before you just bash somebody over the head with an
everybody's-
awful review. You
Everybody's
have
going
to.
through something,
Right.
You know, I just
Yeah.
just as a society, just be kinder and more sensitive to people. Right?
Simple. Simple.
It's not easy today.
It's not easy. Yeah.
That's not easy.
Everybody's empowered by the phone and hiding behind their computer.
Yep.
It has an effect on people. So
Yeah.
it's important that we pay attention to that.
And if you do have a bad experience, say something to them while you're there.
Yeah.
Don't put it on
Let them
one of
fix
those-
the problem for somebody
they'll
else.
They'll fix it for you while you're
Mhm.
there. 99% of the time.
If you're at a
Yeah.
half decent restaurant.
Just don't go on Google and bash people. Just try to talk it out with your server and the manager, and it's just
That's
so
great
much
advice, Justin.
better
Thank
for
you.
everybody that way.
Man,
Yeah.
so good having you on the
Awesome.
show,
Well,
brother.
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, if you think of anything, let me know.
Cool.
We'll get all the links and all the good stuff.
Right
so
on.
much love.
Awesome. Thank you.
brother. Yeah, man.
Cool.